There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from pretending you're fine. You smile at the right moments, you say the right things, you show up and perform the role of someone who has everything under control. And somewhere in the background, there's a noise, a quiet hum of discomfort you've learned to ignore. You tell yourself, it's not that bad. You tell yourself others have it worse. You tell yourself that if you just keep going, it will eventually fade on its own. But it doesn't fade. It waits. It accumulates. And then one day, something small happens. A careless comment, a forgotten task, a minor inconvenience, and you completely fall apart. Not because of what happened, but because of everything you've been carrying in silence. You wonder where the reaction came from, why you couldn't hold it together. But the truth is, you were holding it together. You were holding so much that your hands eventually gave out. You've probably done this for so long that you don't even notice when it starts. There's a moment early on where something inside you shifts. Maybe you feel a tightness in your chest or a weight in your stomach. Maybe your thoughts start looping, replaying a conversation or a worry that won't settle. But instead of pausing, you push forward. You convince yourself that acknowledging it would make it real, and making it real would mean you'd have to deal with it. So you don't. You bury it under the next task, the next obligation, the next distraction. And for a while, it works. You feel a sense of control, a sense that you're managing. But control and suppression are not the same thing. Control is a conscious choice. Suppression is a reflex. And your brain, left to its own devices, will always choose the path that feels safest in the moment, even if that path leads to a cliff. This pattern shapes more than just your mood. It shapes how you move through the world. You become the person who never complains, who never asks for help, who absorbs difficulty without resistance. People around you start to see you as stable, unshakable, someone who can handle anything. And you like that. You like being the one who doesn't break. But inside, you're not stable. You're just storing. Every frustration, every disappointment, every moment of pain gets filed away in a room you never open. You tell yourself you'll deal with it later, but later never comes, and the room gets fuller. Eventually, the door won't close, and the smallest thing, a look, a tone, a text, becomes the thing that finally breaks it open. Psychologically, this isn't a weakness. It's a strategy your brain developed to keep you safe. Early on, you learned that expressing pain didn't get you what you needed. Maybe it was met with dismissal, or with anger, or with silence. So you adapted. You learned to minimize. You learned to handle things alone. Your brain encoded a simple rule. Vulnerability is dangerous. Endurance is protection. And that rule worked. It got you through difficult moments. But what works in one context doesn't always work in another. The brain doesn't update the rule just because the environment changed. It keeps applying the old logic to new situations. So you keep minimizing. You keep swallowing. You keep telling yourself it's not a big deal, even when it is. There's a name for this in psychology. It's called the fawn response. Most people know fight, flight, or freeze, but fawn is the fourth option. It's the tendency to placate, to smooth things over, to make yourself small so you don't become a burden. It's a survival mechanism rooted in the belief that your needs are less important than the comfort of others. And it's reinforced every time you choose silence over expression. Every time you say, "I'm fine," when you're not. Every time you laugh off something that actually hurt. Your brain logs that as a success. The conflict was avoided. The peace was kept. But the cost is invisible. The cost is stored in your nervous system. Think of your emotional life as a pressure cooker with a faulty release valve. Each time you suppress a feeling, you turn up the heat. You don't notice it first because the increments are small, but the pressure builds, and the valve, the one that's supposed to let out small amounts of steam gradually, doesn't work. So the only way the pressure can escape is by blowing the lid off. That's the explosion. That's the moment where you cry over something trivial, or snap at someone you love, or feel completely hollow for no apparent reason. It's not the moment that broke you. It's the moment the buildup finally became visible.
Another way to understand this is through the window of tolerance. This is a concept from neuroscience that describes the zone where you can think clearly, feel emotions without being overwhelmed, and respond to situations with flexibility. When you're within your window, life is manageable. But when you consistently suppress pain, you narrow that window. Your system becomes more sensitive. Things that shouldn't bother you start to bother you. Small stressors feel like big ones. And eventually, you're living outside your window more than inside it. You're either numb, disconnected, going through the motions, or you're flooded, reactive, overwhelmed. There's no middle ground. The explosion isn't a failure of character, it's a sign that your window became too small to hold what you were carrying. So what do you do with this? How do you stop the cycle of accumulation and explosion? The answer isn't to feel everything all at once. That's just another form of overwhelm. The answer is to build a system for release, a way to let pressure out before it becomes critical. And this system has to be grounded in how the brain actually works, not in vague ideas about self-care or positive thinking. The first step is to name the feeling before you understand it. This might seem backward. Most people want to know why they feel something before they're willing to admit they feel it. But the brain doesn't work that way. The emotional centers activate faster than the reasoning centers. If you wait for understanding, you've already suppressed. So you have to catch it earlier. When you notice a shift in your body, a tension, a heaviness, a restlessness, pause and give it a simple label: sad, frustrated, afraid, overwhelmed. You don't need to be right, you just need to name it. Research in effective neuroscience shows that labeling emotions reduces activity in the amygdala, the brain's alarm system. It calms the storm, not by solving anything, but by giving the brain a sense that the experience is being handled. The second step is to create a container for small expressions. The reason you downplay pain is that you don't have a safe place to put it, so you keep it inside. You need to build that place intentionally. This could be 10 minutes at the end of the day where you write without filtering. It could be a voice note you record and delete. It could be a conversation with someone who doesn't need you to be okay. The form doesn't matter. What matters is that you practice releasing small amounts of emotional pressure in a controlled way. Your brain needs to learn that expression is safe. It needs repeated evidence that you won't be punished for being real. Over time, this widens your window of tolerance. The pressure doesn't build because you're letting it out gradually. The third step is to separate the feeling from the story. When something painful happens, your brain immediately starts constructing a narrative. This happened because they don't care. This happened because I'm not enough. This happened because nothing ever works out. That story amplifies the pain. It turns a single event into a confirmation of something much larger. But the story isn't the feeling. The feeling is just a physical sensation, a temporary state. If you can stay with the sensation without attaching the story, you rob the pain of its power to accumulate. You feel it, and it passes. This is difficult because the brain loves stories. Stories give meaning, but they also trap you. The goal isn't to stop thinking, it's to notice when thinking is making things worse, and to gently return to the body, to the simple experience of what's here right now. The fourth step is to recalibrate your relationship with small pains. Most people wait until something is unbearable before they acknowledge it. That's the habit. You need to build the opposite habit, catching things when they're small. When someone says something that stings, notice it in the moment. When you feel a wave of exhaustion, name it out loud. When you're disappointed, let yourself feel the disappointment without minimizing it. This isn't about making a scene, it's about giving small feelings the dignity they deserve. Because when you honor the small ones, the big ones don't sneak up on you. They arrive, and you're ready for them. The fifth step is to redefine what strength means. Somewhere along the way, you learned that strength is silence, that strong people don't complain, that strong people handle things alone. But that's not strength, that's isolation. Real strength is the ability to be with what you feel without being destroyed by it. Real strength is the willingness to say, "This is heavy, and I need to put it down for a moment." Real strength is knowing that you can feel something fully and still function. The brain learns this through experience. Every time you let yourself feel without falling apart, you send a signal, this is safe. And over time, that signal rewires the reflex to suppress. Imagine your emotional life as a river. For years, you've been building dams. You thought the dams were keeping you safe, but all they did was create stagnant water and eventual floods. The work now is not to tear down all the dams at once. That would cause a flood too. The work is to open small channels, to let the water move, to trust that the river knows where to go. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to process every old wound. You just have to stop adding to the dam. You just have to let a little through, and then a little more, until the water flows again on its own. You are not broken for feeling too much. You are not weak for breaking down. You are someone who learned to hold everything in a place that was never meant to hold everything. And now you're learning something else. You're learning that pain, when it's allowed to move, doesn't destroy you. It passes through. It leaves you softer in some places, stronger in others. And the silence you once used to protect yourself can become something else. It can become a space where you finally hear what you've been trying to say. Not to the world, just to yourself. And that's enough. That's where it starts.